the absorption of 1 million immigrants from the former Soviet Union, executed by the States of Israel, the Jewish community, and the Jewish Agency was fascinating. After 70 years of communism, brutal anti-Israeli policy, cut off by law from all Jewish symbols and traditions, these citizens were absorbed into the Israeli society. This massive immigration changed dramatically the Israeli society in all areas. The impact is culturally, economically, and of course demographically. However, no less important, this immigration clarifies to our enemies in a very, very clear way that Jews have returned to Zion. In the last few years, the Israeli government and the Jewish people around the world have made serious efforts and put significant resources in reducing the gaps and bringing the peripheries of the Israeli society closer to the center, not only in physical infrastructures, however, also in social gaps, giving equal opportunity to each and every citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can hear, although it is very, very exciting, it's not easy. And we are not here to tell you that everything is perfect as far as closing the gap among the Israeli society. There is a long way to do. With all the efforts of the citizens of Israel, the Israeli born like us, and the Jewish community all over the world, we have got a long way to go. But we do believe there is no other option but close the gap inside the Israeli society. We will not be able to overcome the challenges of the states of Israel as far as our survival, as far as our independence, if we will not close the gap and we will make it a better society. And now, after some of the stories, you will hear the real people that did the change. So I would like, with your permission, ladies and gentlemen, to call Pnina Gaday, Ethiopian-born, head of Hillel Society in Tel Aviv University. Pnina, a graduate of Hebrew University in Jerusalem, has been involved with Hillel since enrolling at the school in 2003. As a daughter of Ethiopian Jews, Pnina made Aliyah with her family at the age of 3. Pnina, please.
צהריים טובים. Good afternoon. As a young child, as I said, I came to Israel when I was 3 years old with my mother and my older sister. She was 7 years old then. And for my mom, it's fulfilling a dream of thousands of years, generation by generation, to come to the promised land, Jerusalem, not Eretz Israel, not the Israel states. The other time I was dreaming about Jerusalem. And for my mom, when we heard by the messengers of the Jewish Agency that the way is open, that was the first thing she wanted to do. So she took us a night. I was 3 years old, my sister was 7, she was 25, and we started walking. We walked for 10 days till we got to the refugee camp in Sudan and waited there for 7 months till we had a permission to come to Israel. In the same operation that called Moses Operation, more than 4,000 people lost their life wishing to come to Israel and join us. But today there is 125,000 Ethiopian Jews that live in Israel. And for me, this story really reminds what we do every year and what we did last week. The story of Haggadah shel Pesach, as we recommend in Pesach to that בכל דור ודור חייב אדם לראות את עצמו כאילו הוא יצא ממצרים. In every generation must a person see himself as himself went out from Egypt. And for my personal story, it was truly like that. We really went out from Ethiopia, not Egypt, but we went out and we walked, and that's why it's also called Operation Moses, based on that story. But when we came to Israel, it wasn't easy like we thought it's going to be. For my mom and for the entire community, they thought they're coming to Eretz Zavat Chalav, the country of milk and honey. And they thought that everyone is Jewish, and everyone is black, and everyone is Orthodox. So imagine how shocked they were when they came to Israel to see that, first of all, not everyone is black, we're the minority, everyone is white, and then not everyone is Jewish. And then the Israel Society are even not practicing the Orthodox life. They're more secular. So when I start walking around with my secular friends, the Israelis, my mom was very scared that I'm going to become a secular and will lose my Jewish identity. So for my mom and for her parents and my grandfather and my grandmother, it was very hard and difficult from the identity point, not the economic issue even. I'm not talking about the economic gap or the cultural gap, but the identity as a Jew to be part of the Israeli society. So for my mom, it's still a process till today, 25 years even since we're in Israel, to trying to integrate to the society. But for me and my sister, the story was different because we sent to Orthodox education. So we learned everything. That's mean including the halakha, the oral Torah, that we never heard about that in Ethiopia. So my parents and my grandfather are based on the Jewish that practiced in the Bible, from the Bible time, like in Beit Rishon, the first temple. So my grandfather till today slaughtered an animal in Pesach, like Korban Pesach. So instead Korban is dividing all the para, all the cow, to all his kids. He have, Baruch Hashem, 14 kids. And and today, after I learned about Hanukkah and Purim that we never heard in Ethiopia, coming back home and trying to teach my mom to celebrate these holidays, and also teaching my mom to separate the dishes, because we never heard about that halakha, also made the gap even wider between me and my parents. So for me, I can say that integrating to the Israel society was good. Wasn't too hard. But for my parents, the older generation, was very hard, more than the economic and the social situation, but to be part of the Israel society. And more than that, when we came in 1984, people still question if we're Jewish or not, because we practice the Jewish life differently from the Jewish life practicing today. So growing up, I was also all the time searching for my identity, and I wasn't sure if I am more Israeli, more Ethiopian, more Jewish, and where my identity it is. So I grew up in Orthodox education, and when I get to the point that I need to decide if I'm going to Shirut Leumi, national service, or to the army, I decided to go to the army, because I want to be part of this experience of being a soldier in Israel. I went to the army to education unit. Thank you. And there's a small department in the educational unit that's called Moreshet Haaretz, the heritage of the land, that they send in 15 soldiers to teach the heritage of the land and about the wars that the Israeli soldiers did in the past to the teenager before they joined to the army. So in the first year, that's what I did, and that was great. And the second year, my commander asked me to move from Ashdod to Rehovot, because there is a neighborhood in Rehovot called Kiryat Moshe, that 90% of them are Ethiopian. It's very low economic neighborhood, very hard time for the kids and for the parents. And they didn't have any Ethiopian soldier by then in the education unit, and they wanted to go there and be, as a role model, one of their counselor. So it took me 4 months to move, but I did it in the end. And it was very hard for me to integrate it back to the Ethiopian community, because now I was more Israeli. I spoke the language really good. I was very familiar with all the culture and all the stories and the history. And those new immigrants that came from Ethiopia still wanted to hold their heritage and their history as an Ethiopian Jew.